Hey folks, today we're going to be canning some elk venison. What we're canning our elk venison into is 1 pint largemouth jars. I can get about 2 lunches out of this for myself. We have some already pre-cubed elk venison meat here, and when I cube it up, you can make your pieces pretty liberal, or you can make them kind of smaller. They come out pot roast tender when you do this, and it's pretty tasty. Before you get started on this, what you have to do is sanitize your jars. So I boiled my jars, they're sanitized, they're already dry, ready to go. And then another thing we need to do is take our lids and put them in a water bath. So I have a hot water bath going here. So I know my pressure cooker takes 14 jars at a time, and so what I do is put the 14 lids in. So what you want to do is fill your jar with your meat, and I'm using raw meat, it's not pre-cooked. And so we're going to fill that up to about the 1-inch headspace mark here, and that gives it room to expand a little bit while it's boiling in there in the pressure cooker. Read your pressure cooker manual, it'll walk you through how to can this. It's a pretty simple process. It's just time consuming since you need to watch the pressure cooker the whole time to maintain your correct pressure for your whatever your altitude is. So let's go ahead and put some meat in the jar. Alright, now that we've got some meat in the jar, you can see there are some air gaps in here. And what I do is just take a little skewer stick, and we're just going to pack that meat in there a little bit and get out what air gaps you can in there. You want your meat to cook nice and even. Now that our jar is packed, we can set it aside for now, and we'll do the next jar. We can add our seasoning now, and so I have some canning salt, and you want to use a non-iodized salt, otherwise it can make the liquid around your meat kind of not as clear. And then today I'm going to add some curry to this, just because I like curry. And so we're going to add a little bit of curry, about 1/4 of a teaspoon. And then I'm going to add a little bit of something I like in my curry is garam masala. We're going to add a little bit more. So you can add whatever seasoning you want to this. Now after putting my seasonings in here, it's not a bad idea to wipe the rim one more time before you put your lid on. That way if you get any granular on there, it won't block the seal. And really that seal's what's going to keep your meat healthy and free of pathogens getting in there. Now before we start the canning process, we're going to load the canner. So what I normally do is put 14 pint jars in there. My canner says for my altitude I have to have it at 11 pounds, and I have to basically have it at pressure cooking at 11 pounds for 75 minutes. So I'm using a gas burner in my shop here. I'll have proper ventilation. Make sure you have proper ventilation if you're using any gas source. One thing you want to know is you can't use like a turkey frying outdoor cooker with that. So I actually have a stovetop style of burner. It's a single burner that I use, and I just set it on top of my wood stove, which is not going right now. So what I'll do is I'll put my jars in, I'll bring it up to steam temperature. Once I start seeing a good amount of steam coming out of the spout of it, then I'll put my weight on, and then we'll watch it come up to pressure. And once I come up to the pressure for my altitude, which is 11 pounds, then I'll start the timer once I actually put the weight on. So we'll do it for 75 minutes, and we'll see what it looks like coming back. So right now we're going to load the canner with our meat that's ready to go. And you want to make sure your jars are spaced out so they're not banging together while they're boiling. And then you don't have to use a separator, but it makes it easy for me. I put a separator inside there. And there is 14 jars. So before you put your lid on here, so on your lid for your pressure cooker, you want to inspect it for a few things. And the best thing to do is remove your weight, and that's the weight that'll help you build pressure. And you want to look through this steam hole. So I'll hold it up to the light, and I can see that it's free of any obstructions and it's clean. And then you want to make sure your gauge is on good, and the nut really on the gauge is supposed to be finger tight. There's a rubber gasket in this one. You want to make sure that your little safety is movable, and inspect your ring for any rips, tears, cracks, anything like that. This is a new unit, and so it's in good shape. You want to make sure that everything's safe before you start this process. So otherwise, this is kind of a little ticking time bomb, but it is fairly easy to operate. Okay, what we're ready to do is lock the lid down. What I failed to mention was you need to add water to your pressure canner before you get this process started. This pressure canner has a mark that indicates how much water to put in there for the appropriate amount of pressure canning we're doing. If you read your manual on your pressure canner, it will tell you how much to fill it up. You can fill it up with a proper measurement. This one has a measurement on the side, so it's kind of dummy proof that way. I would suggest anybody that's doing this, if you're not familiar with your pressure canner, please read your manual and follow the instructions there. So let's lock the lid down. Get it lined up here, and you can slightly hear the pressure coming out of that when you lock it down. So we are in the locked position now, and we are ready to start the burner. You see a nice blue flame there. So what we need to do is wait until we start seeing a good amount of steam coming out of the vent. As you can see, the pressure's building. We're at 5 pounds. I've reduced my flame just a little bit, just to keep it gradual. It's heading up to 6, and we're trying to get to 11. All right, now we are at 11 pounds. I started my timer. My flame is fairly low, and I'm gonna try to keep it right at 11 pounds. If it goes a little over, we'll throttle it back a little bit. But while I've been waiting for this to boil, I've been cutting up some of my elk meat from this season, and there's the scraps. There's a tote of meat I'm working on, and this is all the cubed meat I've made so far. So with this, I am able to just work away and keep checking on my gauge. So we'll get back as soon as this is done. We've got 75 minutes to go. All right, so timer went off. We're at 11 pounds. I just removed it from the burner. That's the burner I'm using. And so now we let it naturally depressurize. And once it's at 0, then we can remove the weight from the steam stem there. And then we can wait another 5 minutes and pop the lid and start putting jars out. Okay, now that we've depressurized, I took the weight off and I've let it sit for 10 minutes. And now we can open the lid and start pulling jars out. So we're just going to pull the lid off. Grab it here, take it off, let the steam away from you. Alright, here we have our handy jar grippers. I have 2 towels laying down here on the floor or on the table. The fluid in there is bubbling away. And then You're waiting for the sound that each one sucks down the lid as they cool down, and you know they're sealed. Oh, there goes one right now. So that's 14 pints of canned elk with curry flavor in it, and you can see they're bubbling away, they're hot. So we're gonna listen to make sure that they seal. That one's not sealed yet. That one is. So we're getting there. Alright guys, here's the deal. All 14 cans are sealed. There's no flex in each lid. And we have, all of them are still boiling hot inside. You can see some of the bubbles there. So now that we have this, we're going to let them cool down. But this was a complete success. Everybody sealed. And I have to tell you, this is a great way to use any meat you have in your freezer. If you hunt, or if you butcher your own game, or you butcher your own animals at your house, even if you have some chickens, this is a great way to put meat up. You can have it on hand in the cupboard, doesn't have to be refrigerated, and it'll last you a few years. So I did add my own spices to this, so this has its own flavor, but it is pretty dang good with just salt in it. And you will be able to utilize this in making a sandwich spread, just eating it with a fork straight out of the jar. I put it on rice, you can put it in potatoes, whatever, put it on a sandwich. It's all good. So if you guys liked what you learned today, subscribe to my channel. I'm looking for subscribers. I'm looking for ideas to get these types of things out there to people. And I'd like to be able to share that knowledge with you. So please subscribe to my channel, Brandon Boyd. Thanks for watching. Bye.